Chapter 10. We agreed we would meet soon. I was ashamed to tell her that I wanted to see her the very next day, that I'd wanted her to stay with me right then, that she must never leave me again. In spite of my astounding memory, I do have sudden, inexplicable lapses. I do not know how what I said to her, but I remember her saying that it was time for her to go. That same night I called her. A woman answered. When I told her I wanted to speak with Senorita Maria Urbani, she seemed to hesitate a second, but then said she would see if she was in. Almost immediately I heard Maria's voice, but her formal, businesslike tone gave me a start. I must see you, Maria, I said. I've been thinking about you constantly, every second since I left you. I paused, trembling. She didn't answer. Why don't you say something? I asked, growing increasingly nervous. Wait a minute, she said. I heard her put down the receiver, then after a few seconds I heard her voice again. Now it was her true voice. She sounded as if she was trembling too. I couldn't talk, she explained. Why? There are a lot of people around. Then how can you talk now? Because I closed the door. When I close the door, they know I'm not to be disturbed. I must see you, Maria. My voice was harsh. Since I left at noon, been, I've done nothing but think of you. No reply. Why don't you answer me? Castell, she began hesitantly. I shouted at her, indignant. Don't call me Castell. Then timidly, Juan Pablo. I felt that those two words were the beginning of infinite happiness. But Maria had stopped again. What's happening? I asked. Why don't you say something? So have I, she half whispered. So have you what? I insisted. So have I been thinking of nothing else. What do you mean, nothing else? I asked. I was insatiable. About everything. What do you mean, everything? Tell me. What? Oh, how strange all this is. Your painting, our meeting yesterday, and today, I don't know. Imposition. Imposition has always irritated me. Look, I told you that I've done nothing but think of you. But you didn't say you've thought about me. A long moment, then she said, I told you I've been thinking about everything. But what? I want you to tell me in detail. But it's all so strange. It's all been so strange. I find it disturbing. Of course I thought about you. My heart lurched. But I needed details. I thrive on details, not generalities. But how? How? I was more and more agitated. I've thought of everything about you, about your profile when you were staring at the tree, about your chestnut hair, about how hard your eyes were, and then how suddenly your expression softened, about the way you walk. I have to hang up, she interrupted. Someone is coming. Desperately, I managed to say, I'll call you tomorrow early. All right, was her abrupt reply. Chapter 11. I spent a restless night. I couldn't sketch, I couldn't paint, although I tried many times to start on something. I went out for a walk and suddenly found myself on Calle Corrientes. Something very strange was happening. I was seeing the world through sympathetic eyes. I think I remember saying that I intended to be absolutely impartial in telling the story, and now I'm going to offer the first proof of that by confessing one of my worst faults. I've always looked on people with antipathy, even revulsion, especially crowds of people. I have always despised the beach in the summer, soccer games, the races, demonstrations. I have felt affection for a few men and an occasional woman. For some, I have felt admiration. I'm not an envious man. For others, true sympathy. I have always had tenderness and compassion for children, especially when through supreme mental effort I have tried to forget that one day they will be adults like anyone else. In general, however, humankind has always seemed detestable. I do not mind telling you that there have been times after I observed a particular character trait that I could not eat for a day. or paint for a week. It is incredible to what degree greed, envy, petulance, vulgarity, avarice, in short, the entire spectrum of traits that compose our miserable condition, can be revealed in a face, in a way of walking, in a look. It seems only natural that after such an encounter, a person would not want to eat or paint or even live. Nonetheless, I want to make it clear that I take no pride in this trait. I know it is a sign of pride, and I also know that greed and petulance and avarice and vulgarity have often found a welcome spot in my heart, but I said that I would tell this story with complete impartiality, and that is what I intend to do. That night, my scorn for humanity seemed nullified, or at least temporarily absent. I went to the Cafe Marzotto. I suppose you know that people go there to listen to tangos, but to listen to them the way a true believer listens to Bach's St. Matthew's Passion. Chapter 12. After 10 the next morning, I called Maria. The same woman answered the telephone when I asked for Senorita Maria Urbani. She told me she had left that morning for the country. I was stunned. For the country? I repeated. Yes, sir. Are you Senor Castel? Yes, I'm Castel. She left a letter for you. She said to say she was sorry, but she didn't have your address. I had counted so strongly on the idea of seeing her that day, and had hoped for such momentous results from the meeting that this news left me totally deflated. A series of questions rushed through my mind. Why had she decided to go to the country? Evidently, she had made this decision following our telephone conversation because, if not, she would have said something about a trip to the country. And certainly she would not have agreed to talk to me the next morning. But if her decision was subsequent to the telephone conversation, was it also a consequence of that conversation? And if so, why? Was she running away from me again? Was she afraid that we would meet accidentally as before? This unexpected trip to the country awakened my first doubts. As always, I began to recall suspicious details I had ignored at the time. Why the change of voice the day before on the telephone? Who were the people who were around and who prevented her from speaking normally? Furthermore, the change of voice proved she was capable of pretense. And why had the maid hesitated when I asked for a Senorita Urabani? And more than any other, one sentence kept eating into my brain like acid. When I close the door, they know I'm not to be disturbed. I realized that there were shadows around Maria. These thoughts were forming in my mind as I hurried toward her house. It was strange that she had not found my address. By contrast, I already knew both her address and her telephone number. She lived on Calle Posadas, almost at the corner of Seaver. By the time I reached the fifth floor and rang the bell, I was shaking with emotion. The door was opened by a servant who seemed to be Polish or some nationality, and when I gave her my name, she led me to a study filled with books. Bookshelves lined the walls to the ceiling, but books were also piled on the two small tables, and even one of the chairs. I was struck by the abnormal size of many of the volumes. I got up to take a look closer around the library when I suddenly had the sensation that someone behind my back was silently watching me. I turned and saw a man at the opposite end of the room. He was tall and thin with a handsome head. He smiled in my direction, but only in my general direction. Though his eyes were wide open, I realized he could not see. That explained the unusually large books. You are Castell, right? He said cordially, extending his hand toward me. Yes, Signora Barney, I replied, taking the proffered hand. I was bewildered. I wondered what his relationship to Maria might be. As he motioned me to the chair, he smiled with slight irony. My name is not Barney, and you must not call me Signor. I am Allende, Maria's husband. Accustomed to appraising and perhaps interpreting silences, he immediately added, Maria always uses her maiden name. I stood frozen as a statue. Maria has told me a lot about your painting. Since I became blind fairly late in life, I can still envision things rather well. It was as if he were apologizing for his blindness. I did not know what to say. All I wanted was to be alone out of this room, somewhere I could digest this new information. He removed a letter from a pocket and handed it to me. Here's your letter, he said, simply as if there were nothing extraordinary about his delivering a letter to me. I took the letter and started to put it in my pocket, but the blind man added, as if he had been seeing what I was doing, go ahead, read it. Although, since it's from Maria, it can't be very urgent. I was trembling. As he lighted a cigarette, after offering one to me, I tore open the envelope. I removed the letter. It consisted of a single sentence. I think of you too, Maria. When Iende heard me folding the sheet of paper, he asked, nothing urgent, I imagine. Making a supreme effort, I replied, no, nothing urgent. I felt like some kind of monster when I saw the blind man smile, gazing toward me with wide open eyes. That's just like Maria, he said. People often mistake Maria's impulses for urgent need. She does things spontaneously, but without changing very much of anything. How can I explain it to you? He gazed abstractly toward the floor, as if seeking a clear explanation there. After a moment, he said, as if someone stranded in a desert suddenly moved with great speed to a different location, you understand. The speed is really unimportant. The person is still in the same desert. He smoked and meditated a moment longer as if I were not there. Then he added, although I'm not sure that's it exactly, I don't have a gift for metaphor. I could not think how to escape from that damned room. The blind man seemed to be in no hurry at all. What kind of ridiculous farce is this? I asked myself. Today, for example, Allende continued, she gets up at dawn and tells me she's going out to the estancia. To the estancia? I repeated hazily. Yes, our estancia. I mean, it was my grandfather's, but now it's in the hands of my cousin Hunter. I suppose you know him. This new revelation added to my anxiety and also made me peevish. What could Maria possibly see in that womanizing, cynical imbecile? I made an effort to be calm, reassuring myself that she had not gone to the estancia to be with Hunter, but because she liked the solitude of the country, and because it was the family estate. Nevertheless, my heart sank. I know who he is, I said bitterly. Before the blind man could reply, I added unceremoniously, I must go. Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that, Iende remarked. I hope we will be seeing each other again. Yes, yes, of course, I answered. He walked me to the door. We shook hands, and I fled. As the elevator was descending, I repeated with rage, what kind of ridiculous farce is this?